On the subject of A Puppet to Her Fame, Act 2. So, we're coming in a lot severely disappointed. Not because it was bad, but because I spoke too soon. Because apparently the author just had a change of heart. So, I said in the first video that it was awesome and cool that they could make such a brutal, drastic story and not have any curse words. And they didn't have any curse words in the first chapter. But I guess something happened. Maybe somebody suggested it. Maybe he thought it was more dramatic. Don't know. 5 curse words. I think 3 or 4 F-bombs in the A word. Maybe it was 3 F-bombs, the A word, and the B word. Yeah, that works. Yeah, needless to say, the story went down, 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 down. There's really no way to recover from that. If Into the Depths had cannibalism, murder, demon possession. Demon possession? Yeah, technically demon possession. If it had all of these things, and it didn't have to have curse words, and what is it called? Integration had what it had with Chrysalis, and nobody called her a bee, including Luna, then you don't really need curse words. This chapter or this act, it didn't really need. So, let's talk about the moment in Devil May Cry 5 when Nero's like F you, when he transforms and he's like F you to his dad. That had a lot of impact. Like that kind of moment makes sense. It's like, holy moly, he's mad. I don't even remember how many bad words are in that game, but that moment I do remember, and it makes sense. It's like, this makes sense because he's very mad. So what happened is, on this chapter, Hair Mom says the F word, and I'm like, oh, that's not okay, but it makes sense in the sense that she's really mad and you're doing a shocking moment. But then he's dropping the F-bomb for like comedy purposes, and then the mother's just constantly dropping the F-bomb, and it's like, in these moments, like, so like in act 1, right? Okay, let me run through and then I'll give my thoughts. So in this act, Octavia wakes up. She missed a day of practice. The KO from her mom literally knocked her out for a day. I I believe no. I I'm pretty sure she wakes up late. She's like, I've got, yeah, okay. So she wakes up late on the day after getting knocked out, or what she thinks is the day after getting knocked out. And she goes to the kitchen because she realizes that practice is in like a little while, and the chef is there and he's making sandwiches, and she's like, "Can I have some?" And he's like, "Yes." And she takes some, and then she's like, how come you're nice to me?" And he's like, "There was a pony that I failed, that I didn't take care of." He's like, "I'm reminded of that failure every day, and like taking care of her kind of helps." And she's like, "I wish I would have grown up with Earth Pony parents like you." And I was just like, this, like, already, like, phenomenal, continue. That was a really cute moment, and it's really sad, and let's keep going. So, unfortunately, so what happens is she goes to her room and she eats the sandwich or whatever, and then she's gonna get ready to go or whatever, and she goes with the butler, and what happens is, somehow her cello keeps getting like brought home. Like it got brought home and she doesn't know how, so she has to take it. And then she goes and she does the thing and she's like, Lyra, let's go to the bar, to the she wants to go back to the club over and over. And Lyra's like, actually, we're gonna hang out at my apartment if that's cool. Cause alcohol, like we keep getting super drunk and like that's bad or whatever. So she's like, yeah, I'll go. That sounds great. So she goes to Lyra's apartment, and Bon Bon and Scratch are there. And Lyra and Bon Bon are kind of like being alone together. They're talking, so she's talking to Scratch or whatever. And like, Scratch is kind of like, yeah, you kind of just left the apartment and like did a bunch of like because she had crazily wrote down the songs or whatever. And like what ends up happening is like Scratch can kind of tell that like she's being beaten or whatever. So Octavia is just talking to her, and she notices the strings with the hooks, and the hook like actually hurts Scratch. Like it goes into her body, and she's like, "Ow, what was that?" And like she doesn't see it, but she can feel it. So Octavia is like, "I have to compose," or whatever. Like she doesn't tell Scratch that she has to, but she like thinks in her mind like, I have to compose or whatever. So she runs home, and she sneaks in through the servant's door, and then she composes like the thing. And like when she composes, like her mom comes in, and and she's like, she Octavia's being really mouthy because yeah, her mom's horrible. And what ends up happening is her mom like, at first she's kind of beating her up, and then she hogties her and throws her out the window, and she makes her sleep outside. And like Octavia's kind of like folding, like she's kind of like, maybe it is my fault or whatever, but she doesn't. And then when she wakes up in the morning, she's back inside, and like she's on the floor or whatever, and covered in mud. And then what ends up happening is like the parents switch the tactics to try and make her obey. So they give her like her favorite meal, but she's like, no, I don't like this. Like she's like, I'm not gonna fall for this or whatever. And also in that last scene, we got the first bad word. Like her mother's like, don't F with me. And I was just like, meh. So anyways, what happens is Octavia is like getting ready to leave, and she realizes that her mom removed all of her bow ties, so her mom's gonna put on her bow tie. And what happens is like she's like, if I could just be quiet for 30 seconds, then I won't like I could go hang out with the girls after, and who cares. Oh, excuse me. So her mom comes out and she's being a real jerk, and then she's like, tell me that you love me, or like say you love your mom. And she's like, that wasn't a request. And like Octavia's like super super mad, and she's like, there's no way I could say it or whatever. So the hooks come out and they like lift her mouth, and she's like, I love you, mommy. And like she gets really really disgusted and whatnot, and her mom's like, good, and she just leaves or whatever. And then she Octavia drops just a random F-bomb, and she's like, I cursed and whatever. And it's like, it's a weird moment to drop an F-bomb. And it wasn't even like an F-bomb directed at her mom, like, F you, you whatever. Like, after she left, it was just like an F, like, and it was really weird. It was just really weird. So anyways, Octavia goes, and her butler's like, please consider, like, not skipping out tonight. Your parents are, like, really have it out for you. And she's like, yeah, she's like, you've been neutral this entire time. Don't start being, like, kind, because then I'll know that my parents have gotten to you or whatever. And he's like, all right. So they go, and Octavia skips out again, and they go to a restaurant kind of type thing, and like obviously they're there, and Lyra's like Lyra goes to sit with them and whatever, and Octavia Scratch is like, Lyra, go ahead and go hang out with Bonbon, and she gives her money or whatever, and like, yeah, it was three F bombs, the B word and the A word, and what happens is Scratch starts talking. Scratch asks Octavia. She's like, "Did your dad beat you?" And like Octavia kind of starts going berserk. She's like, "No." She's like, "Don't try to help me." She's like, "No one helps me." She's like, "I just want to have fun tonight." And blah blah blah. And like Scratch is like, "I'm not gonna let your a-hole dad like beat you or whatever." And like Octavia's like, just like try like stay out of it basically, and she runs out. And when she runs out, she's running and she gets lost. And then the pony, the stallions from the first chapter are there, and they're gonna rape they're gonna rape Octavia. And then like Vinyl comes out of nowhere and wrecks two of them because she's a unicorn and magic is really dumb. And she just destroys two of them, and then the other one runs away. And then Octavia. Oh, and there's the B word in that scene because they're like, "Oh, you B" to Vinyl. And then what happens is they go back to Vinyl's apartment, and like Octavia's just crying a lot, and like Vinyl's like, "I'll take care of you. You could stay with me." Blah blah blah. And then they foreplay. They do the nasty, for lack of a better term. It's really a weird moment because the piece of music that they decided to play, because they're really playing up the music we made together and blah blah blah, and it was beautiful, and it was like a grand orchestra and this and this and that, and like the music they play like on some parts sounds like the Avengers theme, where it's like, yeah, it sounds like the Avengers theme. I don't know how it goes, but I was like, this is kind of weird because you're having two lesbian ponies fondle each other essentially to the Avengers theme in my head, and it's like, it's not sexy because, yeah, and then it's kind of weird because the Avengers theme, which makes it even more like weird, and then like it's descriptive, so it's, anyways, they're like, they love each other. She's like, "I love you," blah blah blah. They fall asleep, and then they wake up, and of course knocks on the doors. You're like, "Oh, there goes the guards or the police or whoever to come get." So predictable already. That's really bad, really really bad, because the predictableness. And then yep, it's the guards, and they're here, and apparently their parents told the guards that Octavia was on meds and that she would be crazy, and they take her home, and Vinyl can't do anything, and they dump her at home, and then she gets taken to the room, and her mother comes in to punish her, and we get the third F-bomb. She tells her to shut up, and then she's trying to abuse her, but like there's a really cool scene where the hooks like start helping Octavia, and she starts like wrecking, and she literally is like a second away from killing her mother. But her dad and the butler come in, tackle her. Her dad wrecks her face by punching her, and that's the end of the chapter. Act. So, the problem with this chapter is obviously 5 curse words is one thing. Another problem is predictability. We kind of foresaw, them coming and taking her away. Like, that's obvious. That's, like, really obvious. I guess the issue is, though, that you know how you want to do something and you want it to be done. So, like, for example, not because I want it to be done, but it changes the entire dynamics of the story and, like, would be a lot more harder. For my story with Gale Wing, Tambourine, and Radiant Dawn, I was like, if I just kill Radiant Dawn, put Gale Wing and Tambourine into a coma, I could have an angle where Twilight blames them for her dying, and that this is what drove her to the despair, because her anger or whatever. And then when they come out of the coma, they're like, she saved us. Like Radiant gave her life to save us because we were gonna die, and she whatchamacallit, and then that would shatter Twilight out of the thing and stuff. But I was like, that's a cool angle, but it doesn't really fit because I've already written the whole story. What I'm trying to bring that around to is this: you can have another angle. Like here's an angle for this story for them not to do the predictable, because the predictable, he addressed the predictable. I was like, they're gonna follow her. They're gonna follow Octavia, and Octavia says it. She's like, did they pay the butler, or did they instruct the butler to follow me? So he already is aware of that. Now the two obvious predictable outcomes for her at the waking up in Vinyl's apartment is A, the guard or police, whoever it's going to be, and B, that somebody followed them, the butler, somebody that knows them, whatever, to bring her back. Those are the predictables. But you don't need the predictables. It would take longer, but you don't need the predictables, and here it is. Do something like Octavia and Vinyl are kind of together or whatever, and then for like maybe it doesn't even have to be a day or whatever, it's just when they go out that like stuff, like she starts to notice that like people are around them and like they're starting to threaten like Vinyl and stuff, and like there are ways you can do that and get her back home and it not have to be the predictable way. So that's already like this is kind of predictable and quick. The other thing is that what's really strange is that the mom wasn't more menacing in this chapter, this act. She was actually more menacing in the first act, but in this one, she was like cursing and stuff. It's like you added cursing to her to, I guess, make her seem more intimidating and scary, but you lessened the actual intimidating and scariness of her in the chapter anyways, and it made her less of a scary. Like in the first chapter was like the soup scene, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is brutal and she's terrifying. I guess in the second scene she threw her outside, but it's like she just threw her outside. Was that I'm trying to remember. Yeah, it's just like there's not really anything that made her more menacing, and the cursing really didn't do it. And then you have Vinyl, and like it kind of makes sense for Octavia in a twisted sense. It's not healthy, but like when Octavia is like, I love you to Vinyl, it makes sense because it's like she's like, you saved me. And that makes sense because like a person who's already mentally scarred that badly would fall in love with the person that they view as their savior. But for Vinyl to be like, I love you, it's like, how? It's like you guys met the first night. You took her home after she threw up on Lyra. You met up the second night. You went to the bar, and then you took her home because she got roofied, but then she fell asleep, so you telekinetically took her home and slept. There was no funny business. Vinyl makes that clear in Act 2. There was nothing, and then she ran home. Then on the third night, you talked to her for like 10 minutes on the couch, and then the hooks came out and she ran home. And then on the fourth night, you tried to help her. She said, leave me be. You protected her from some thugs, and then you went home and slept together. That's not conducive with a love relationship. I'm sorry. And it's a weird, quick thing. I guess, well, we had sex, so that's love. That's not what love is. Love isn't sex. That's, sorry, guys. So it's a lot of negatives. With cursing, it already kind of dropped it below being a top 3 because it's easy to curse. Like, cursing doesn't really add to the story, and it makes the story kind of worse because you're like, and I don't mean like short curses, but like the F-bomb, it's like, yeah, you're trying to be edgy boy. Come on now. So like the cursing already lowered it. Then the disappointment of predictability, and then the disappointment of just the story being a lot less menacing because the villain is a lot less menacing. Like her parents aren't as menacing, and then for somehow we've got one more act that's 40 minutes long. What do you think you're going to be able to show me in one 40-minute act that will let me have a satisfying ending? Are you just going to kill the both parents? And then if you kill the parents, I'm definitely going to be like, what happened after this? So it's like, we'll see tomorrow. But my confidence is like way lower. This story like went from like what I said yesterday, 500 stars out of 5 stars, to probably I guess to be fair, if it was including the cursing too, it's a meh. It's a meh with the cursing because that brings it down so far. Without the cursing, it'd be like a 3, a good. It's good. It's not. It's no longer anything special. I don't. There's no way you could get rid of the cursing in chapter 3. I assume, or in act 3, I assume that this author will for some reason be like, if I add more cursing, like in the really climactic moment, that it'll be even better. And like that's not gonna make it better. That's just gonna make it worse. But I guess we'll see. Yeah, two out of 5 stars if you consider the cursing. 3 out of 5 stars if you don't.